A light bulb in Livermore, California has been lit since 1901. That's this week on The Internet Says It's True. Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds like I just made it up, but it's really true. This is part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent. Welcome back. Episode 269. I've got a fun story for you this week. And then later in the show, we'll be talking with our friend Jay Black, so stay tuned for that. It was my birthday week last week. So, if you want to get me a belated birthday gift, an awesome gift if you're so inclined, consider picking up a copy of the new book. It came out in September. It's a collection of more than 50 of the stories from the show put into a book, and then it's basically the perfect bathroom reader or nightstand book. Go to your favorite book retailer online, search for The Internet Says It's True, or you'll find it in the show notes right here. You can also get a copy by becoming a gold level supporter on Patreon. When you join at patreon.com/Michael Kent. At the gold level, you'll get one autographed copy in the mail, but you can join it at any level you want. If the gold level Tizitor membership is too much, you can just give $1 a month or whatever you want. That helps keep this show going. But for you, it's an awesome way to connect with more of these episodes, hear them early and ad-free, and see videos that aren't posted anywhere else online. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent, or also in the show notes. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. A light bulb that's been glowing without replacement for 125 years. If you grew up anywhere near a public school classroom, a museum, or a motivational poster printed sometime between 1983 and 2007, you were probably told some version of this story. Light bulbs used to last forever, but companies realized that was bad for business, so they made them worse on purpose. They called it planned obsolescence. The Phoebus Cartel, a shadowy group of manufacturers, deciding that light bulbs should burn out after 1,000 hours, not because they had to, but because they needed to sell more light bulbs. It's a story that feels true. It fits neatly into our modern understanding of capitalism and disappointment and this uncanny experience of replacing a bulb in your house only to watch it die again 6 months later, like Groundhog Day or something. And then someone always adds this kicker. Somewhere they say, but there's a light bulb that proves it. A light bulb that never burned out. A light bulb that's been on for over 100 years. Now that part obviously sounds like an exaggeration. It sounds like the myth bolted on to the lesson. That sounds like the thing your uncle says at Thanksgiving, right before he starts talking about how, they don't make refrigerators like they used to, and how his lasted 42 years and it also ran quieter than your car. Both of those are true. My friend Blake has an old refrigerator in his garage that is older than all of us combined, and it still works great. But this time, this is all true. There really is a light bulb that's been burning almost continuously since 1901. It's outlived every person who ever installed it. It's survived wars, recessions, technological revolutions, multiple global pandemics. It has been photographed, filmed, live-streamed, argued about, measured, doubted, and confirmed. It has its own webcam. It has its own Wikipedia page. It has its own fan mail. And it's known as the Centennial Light. It's currently hanging from the ceiling of a fire station in Livermore, California. And the reason it is still on tells us something very different from the simple "they don't make them like they used to" story. But before we get to Livermore, we need to take a couple side roads, because light bulbs did not arrive fully formed, glowing eternally like gifts from the electrical gods. They were messy and dangerous and experimental, and for a long time, they weren't especially good at being light bulbs. When people talk about Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb, what they usually mean is that Edison developed a commercially viable incandescent lamp that could be produced, powered, sold at scale, mass-produced, Electric light existed before him. Arc lamps lit streets and factories, but they were blindingly bright. They were loud, basically impractical for being in the home. Edison's contribution was not the idea of a glowing filament, but the system. Power generation, distribution, switches, sockets, that whole ecosystem. Early incandescent bulbs used filaments made from carbonized materials, bamboo, cotton, cellulose, anything that could be shaped into a thin thread and survive being heated to the point of glowing. And these filaments were fragile, they were inconsistent. Some burned out in just hours, some lasted longer. Almost none behaved the same way twice. Brightness was the goal. Longevity was sort of secondary. If you were lighting a home in like 1895, you wanted something that was brighter and safer than gaslight. You weren't yet obsessed with the efficiency ratings or lifespans printed on the side of the box. Electricity itself was still new enough to feel like magic. A bulb that lasted a few hundred hours was acceptable if it meant you were no longer open flaming your living room every evening. And this matters because the Centennial Light comes from this era. It wasn't designed to be what it is, to be basically immortal. It was designed to be stable, conservative, and safe. The Centennial Light bulb was manufactured by the Shelby Electric Company in Shelby, Ohio. Shelby Electric was one of many regional manufacturers producing carbon filament bulbs in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. These were hand-assembled devices. They weren't precision-engineered consumer product. The filament inside the Centennial Light is carbon, not tungsten. It's thicker than modern filaments, and it runs at a much lower temperature. It produces a very dim, amber glow by modern standards, roughly equivalent to like what would be a nightlight. In 1901, the bulb was installed in a firehouse in Livermore. At the time, firehouses needed reliable, always-on illumination. They didn't care about brightness, they cared about not having to replace bulbs in the middle of the night when something was literally on fire. And then something quietly remarkable happened. Nothing happened. The bulb stayed on. It never burned out. The firehouse moved locations several times over the decades, and the bulb always moved with it. It was turned off only a handful of times, mostly due to building renovations or power outages. In 1937, it was briefly disconnected during a move and then turned back on. It dimmed slightly but continued working. By the 1970s, people started to notice. By the 80s, it was a local curiosity. By the early 2000s, it became an internet legend. Today, the bulb hangs in Fire Station Number 6 in Livermore, protected by a dedicated power supply, and it's monitored continuously. It's been recognized by Guinness World Records as the longest burning light bulb in the world, and yes, it's still on. Here's where the story usually turns into an indictment. Look at this bulb, people say. Proof that companies could make things last forever if they wanted to. Proof that everything we buy now is intentionally disposable. Planned obsolescence. The Phoebus cartel. But the truth is more complicated and in some ways more interesting. The Centennial Light lasts so long precisely because it's inefficient. It runs at very low power. The filament is thick and robust. The bulb's never switched on and off, which is one of the most stressful moments in a light bulb's life due to thermal expansion. It produces very little light. It wastes huge amounts of energy as heat relative to its output. If you tried to light your house with Centennial Light replicas, you would hate it. You'd be living in a perpetually haunted hallway. You would trip constantly. You'd also be using far more electricity to get far less illumination. Modern bulbs are designed to do the opposite. They're bright, they're efficient, they push materials close to their limits to maximize output per watt. That trade-off shortens lifespan. Now, this famous Phoebus cartel that I've been mentioning, it did exist. It was a real thing. It was an international agreement formed in the 1920s by major light bulb manufacturers to control prices, standardize products, and divide global markets. And it's most famously remembered for deliberately limiting light bulb lifespans to about 1,000 hours. And that's well documented. It really is planned obsolescence. But the Phoebus cartel was about more than that. It was also about standardization, brightness, and safety. Longer-lasting bulbs existed at the time, but they were dimmer, they were less efficient, and they knew that consumers preferred brighter light, even if it meant replacing their light bulbs more often. That was the trade-off. The Centennial Light is not a suppressed miracle. It's a survivor of a different design philosophy. And yet there's something undeniably poetic about it. This bulb been burning since Teddy Roosevelt was president. It was on during the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. It glowed through both world wars. It stayed lit while radios became televisions, televisions became flat, phones lost their cords, computers stopped being rooms and started being pockets. It's been a symbol, not because it's technologically superior, but because it refuses to participate in the normal life cycle of objects. And there's also a subtle human element here that often gets overlooked. The people of the Livermore Fire Department noticed the bulb and they chose to care about it. They chose to protect it, not to replace it just because. Because at several points in history, it could have been discarded. It could have been thrown away and said, hey, this is obsolete. Instead, it was treated as a quiet coworker who had simply been there longer than anyone else, and that kind of continuity is rare. We live in a world where even digital things vanish, links rot, platforms die. Yet there's this physical object screwed into a socket, drawing a trickle of electricity, doing the same thing it's done every moment of every day for 125 years. It doesn't flash, it doesn't demand attention, it just glows. Before we get into what engineers and historians say this bulb actually teaches us about durability and why nothing like this will ever be mass-produced again, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about why the Centennial Light is not a blueprint for better products, but might be a reminder of how we decide what better actually means. Be right back. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent.
I'm John DeSando, host of Back Talk. This podcast is an extension of the long-running, award-winning movie review show, It's Movie Time. Back Talk features additional content and banter with guests about new movies. If you want more insight and information about what's playing now in theaters and online, find Back Talk at the WCBE Podcast Experience on WCBE.org. You'll be happy you did.
Hey, I'm Cliff Bumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
If you're like us, you probably grew up watching the Discovery Channel classic, Mythbusters.
From rocket cars to chicken cannons, Mythbusters proved there's no question too big, too small, or too ridiculous to put to the test.
Now we're going back to rewatch the show from episode 1, and we want you to follow along. Join us as we revisit every single myth, moment, experiment, and explosion from throughout the show's legendary 14 seasons. Subscribe now so you don't miss one.
What if your kid could open a box and step into another century? With History Unboxed, they can. Each month, a new time-traveling adventure arrives at your doorstep, packed with hands-on projects, stories, recipes, and learning has never been more fun. No screens, no boring textbooks, just immersive, age-appropriate fun that makes history stick. Whether they're mummifying an apple like an Egyptian, or crafting medieval armor, or exploring the music of the Harlem Renaissance, they're not just learning about history, they're living it. Used by families, homeschoolers, and educators across the country, History Unboxed makes the past come alive with every box. I think it's amazing that I'm personally in my 40s and I'm still learning history every week. I wasn't interested in history as a kid, and I think that's because I didn't have something that made it fun. Things have changed since then. History Unboxed makes learning history engaging, fun, and hands-on in the comfort of your own home. So if your child loves to ask why and what was it like, this is the perfect way to fuel that curiosity. Ready to time travel? Sign up today by clicking the deals link in the show notes. When you step back and look at the Centennial Light with fresh eyes, one of the strangest things about it is not that it still works, but that it was never supposed to matter. No one installed it thinking, I'm creating a historic thing. It wasn't commemorative, it didn't mark an opening day or a dedication, it wasn't ceremonial, it was infrastructure. It was screwed in because the room needed light and this was the bulb that they had. That accidental quality is part of why it has survived. The bulb was never upgraded because no one was trying to optimize it. It was never replaced because it had never failed. And over time, that lack of intervention became its greatest protection. In the middle of the 20th century, as lighting technology improved dramatically, most older systems were aggressively replaced. Firehouses were modernized and people redid their wiring, they swapped fixtures. The fact that this one light made it through those transitions it's not a miracle as so much as it is like a bureaucratic fluke. It was working and there was no budget line item for replacing a thing that was already doing its job. And that matters because when people point to this light as evidence of a lost golden age of manufacturing, they're usually imagining a world where everything was built like this on purpose, but the historical record just doesn't support that idea. Early electric lighting was wildly inconsistent. For every bulb that lasted decades, there were thousands that failed quickly. Shelby Electric here in Ohio, they didn't advertise century-long lifespans. They advertised reliability relative to competitors. The Centennial Light isn't representative of the average experience. It's the statistical outlier that survived long enough to become symbolic. Engineers who have examined the bulb emphasize this point repeatedly. Its longevity comes from a convergence of factors that would almost never be replicated intentionally at scale. The filament is carbon, which evaporates more slowly at lower temperatures. The bulb is operated at very low wattage. The voltage supplied to it is carefully regulated, and most importantly, it's almost never turned off. That last detail is critical. The most damaging moment in a light bulb's life is not when it's glowing steadily, it's the instant it's switched on. The sudden rush of current causes rapid heating, expansion, and mechanical stress. And you do that enough times, and microscopic weaknesses become fractures. And you likely know this because whenever you've had a bulb go out, it's usually right when you turn it on. It comes on, it flashes, it pops, and then it's done. The Centennial Light has avoided that cycle almost entirely. In other words, it's survived not because it's stronger, but because it's been allowed to live a much gentler life. And there's also the question of brightness, which often gets glossed over in retellings. This light produces roughly 4 watts of illumination. By modern standards, that's barely functional. Like, it wouldn't meet safety codes for most indoor spaces today. It wouldn't satisfy anyone trying to read or work or do literally anything requiring vision beyond, not bumping into the furniture. And that dimness isn't a flaw, it's the trade-off, right? As lighting technology evolved, consumer preferences shifted dramatically. People wanted brighter rooms. Factories needed more illumination for both productivity and safety. Streets needed to be visible from greater distances as cars started moving faster. Achieving that meant pushing filaments hotter and thinner. Hotter filaments glow brighter. Thinner filaments heat faster. Both of those changes increase stress. They also reduce lifespan. And this is where this story of planned obsolescence often oversimplifies things. The Phoebus cartel, formed in 1924, did standardize bulb lifespans around 1,000 hours. That decision is frequently framed as pure corporate greed. But the internal documents and engineering context show that this is a much more complicated reality. Manufacturers were balancing brightness, efficiency, safety, and predictability. A bulb that lasted 2,500 hours but produced dimmer light wasn't necessarily wanted. Consumers didn't want that, especially when electricity was becoming cheaper and expectations were changing. The Centennial Light was never part of that conversation. It predates it entirely. It exists outside the consumer market logic that shaped what we know as modern lighting. And that brings us to an uncomfortable question. If the Centennial Light isn't proof that companies are withholding immortality from us, why does it still feel like a rebuke? Part of the answer lies in how rare long-term continuity has become. Very few physical objects are allowed to remain in uninterrupted service for a century. Buildings are renovated, systems are replaced, devices are upgraded not because they fail, but because something newer exists. I mean, computers don't even last 6 years anymore. The Centennial Light was spared that fate largely because it was unremarkable. Once it became famous, however, it entered a new phase of existence. It stopped being just a bulb and it became a responsibility. By the late 20th century, the Livermore Fire Department understood that if the light went out, it wouldn't just be a maintenance issue. It would be the end of something irreplaceable. There are no exact replicas. Shelby Electric hasn't existed for a very long time, and carbon filament bulbs are no longer manufactured at scale, so the bulb was protected. A dedicated power supply was installed, backup systems were put in place, it was moved carefully during renovations. At one point, when the firehouse was relocated, the bulb was transported under controlled conditions and reinstalled with almost ritualistic caution. That's a strange paradox. The Centennial Light's often cited as an example of durability without maintenance, but its continued survival now depends on really active care. It's no longer just enduring, it's being preserved like a museum piece. It's no longer simply a relic of early electrical engineering. It's a collective decision to keep something going even when it no longer serves a practical purpose. They don't need that light. The firehouse could function perfectly well without it. It remains because people want it to remain. They're the stewards of the light. The emotional response tells you everything you need to know about how its meaning has evolved. What began as a utilitarian object has become a symbol of persistence, not because it was designed to be symbolic, but because it refused to leave. And this is where the Centennial Light stops being a story about light bulbs and starts being a story about us. We live in a culture that equates improvement with replacement. Newer is assumed to be better. Longevity is now treated as accidental rather than valuable. The idea that something could simply keep working quietly without optimization or rebranding feels almost subversive. This light doesn't argue against progress. It doesn't suggest that we should return to dim, inefficient lighting. What it does suggest is that we rarely let things age naturally anymore. Because we intervene early, we want things to get better, and we optimize away continuity, and often that's for utilitarian purposes. We have AI now, so we need our phones and our computers to be faster. There's a humility in the fact that the longest lasting light bulb in history is not the brightest or the smartest or the most efficient, just the one that was left alone. That is perhaps the most uncomfortable lesson of all, because what it means is that durability isn't always about the best materials or secret design. Sometimes it's just about human restraint, about choosing not to push something to its limits because we can. The Centennial Light is still on today not because it beat the system, but because it existed before the system learned how to demand more from everything. It glows softly. It doesn't flicker, it doesn't compete for attention. It simply continues. And that is why it endures. The internet says it's true. It's time for Yap, part of the podcast where I called one of my friends, and today I'm calling an old friend of the show, Jay Black. He's a regular on this show, and he's an award-winning stand-up comedian, but also a writer, director, and producer. What's going on, man?
I was about to interrupt you to say a very old friend of the show because I'm feeling my age. I just had an angry comment on YouTube Shorts. It was just like, why are you trying to stay relevant on YouTube Shorts, you old man? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm trying to stay relevant on Instagram. I just post on YouTube Shorts because I have the video. Yeah. So, at least get the right format right. But anyway, I'm doing fine. How are you, Michael? Good to be back.
I'm good, but you need to tell that person Instagram YouTube is an old man's game. We were on there in 2006.
Yeah, it's been around.
If you do shorts, you don't even upload a video as a short. If you upload a short video, it automatically makes it a short. YouTube decides for you.
Yeah.
TikTok is
I'm trying to stay relevant on every platform. But
yeah.
Instagram mostly, because that's, as you know, Instagram converts the most ticket sales for people like us.
I'm trying to stay relevant at home. And that's the most challenging one, honestly.
Yeah.
TikTok is 45,000 people on there. I can't get that sort of following on any other platform, so I use it.
Right. Absolutely. I've got trying to get my video better because I want to look semi-decent.
Yeah, for the Tizziters joining us on Patreon, you can see the videos.
You know what? This is what I look like. We're going to just deal with it.
Okay.
It's we're all trying to stay relevant, sell tickets. If you're watching this, find me on Instagram, keep me relevant, buy a ticket.
Please do. Yeah. What's Instagram is Jay Black is funny, or is that Jay Black comedy?
It's neither. It's hello Jay Black, all one word.
Hello Jay Black on Insta. Yeah. Find him.
I came way late to Insta, so all the other Jay Blacks were taken. So I just went with hello Jay Black because people could remember it.
Yeah, first letter and color, and that's a tough. A tough. There's someone's going to snag that up. I didn't get Michael Kent on TikTok. I got it on Instagram surprisingly, but I didn't get it on TikTok.
That's cool.
Also didn't get it on Facebook, but
There's a great old Saturday Night Live bit where it was it was a bank, like an investment bank, that got the last available URL. It was in the 90s when everybody was snatching up URLs. Yeah. And the whole thing was we waited because we're prudent to get a URL. And is it a little bit crazy? Yes, but we're here for you, and we're going to take that same prudence for you. Find us at www.clownpenis.fart. Always makes me laugh.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so we mentioned you're an award-winning stand-up comedian. You're also a writer, director, and producer. But what they may not know is that you also are a bastion of interesting facts.
Yes.
Do you have one for us today?
I do. And this one, I when I read it, I said, this can't be right. So I did what any non-old man who's trying to say relevant does. I went to an AI and asked the AI if it was right, and the AI confirmed it.
Okay.
So this is not only Reddit approved, it is Google Gemini vetted. So
I was going to ask which
this is-
AI, because if it came from Grok, we might still have to question it.
Yeah, well, no, I only go to Grok when I want to put women in bikinis without their consent.
Jeez.
So, okay, here we go. Ready? The sharks evolved before the rings of Saturn formed. So sharks, as they are currently situated on Earth, perfect killing machines, existed before the rings of Saturn did, which
Wow.
is pretty cool.
That's awesome. And something interesting. Yesterday, I believe it was, maybe it was last Wednesday. Recently, we did a midweek mini because I do these Wednesday episodes that are like 2-3 minutes long, and it was about the same thing, but not about the rings of Saturn. It was about trees. Sharks are older than trees on this planet.
Yeah,
like they were in the ocean in the primordial soup, being sharks before that. Like land was, thriving in the air. It's crazy.
You know what? It says something negative about our universe, that of all the animals that like just stopped evolving because they got it right, the gross death machines in the water are the things that just went like, oh no, that's nature's perfect machine. Everything else is going to have to be refined, but not this.
It could have been worse. Could have been like slugs or something. Like slugs of outlast. They always say that about cockroaches, but sharks are the real deal. They've been around forever with very little changes. Maybe other than just getting smaller.
They just haven't figured out that human beings are coming after them with global warming. We're going to get them. Yeah, you can't stop us.
But also, apparently, they're not concerned about the threat of all the aliens that everyone thinks are living in our oceans.
Right. Yeah. Well, look, the whole alien thing has gotten out of control. Like people are going nuts with that.
They are, and I'm not saying I don't believe in aliens. I think it's silly to say, like, out of the infinite number of habitable, places in the universe, that we're the only ones. But also, like, the idea that if they came here, they would be coming in like a little tic-tac looking spaceship is sort of goofy to me.
Yeah, no, it's goofy to me. I have a bit in my act now, Mike, where I say, you know what, the only thing that would scare me about aliens would be if they came down and were impressed by us. Like if they came down and they were like, wow, these people really have their stuff together.
Oh no.
This is great. Look at their TSA. It's so efficient compared to ours. Like I would be so like, oh my God, like, what if we're the best there is in the universe? Like what if we're the sterling example, Mike? That would be terrible.
Yeah. Oh, and the microcosm of that is basically like the US in general. Like, like what if, like, as bad as things are, what if it's still better than a lot of other places? I mean, we know it is, but like it's better than a lot of other places, but what if it was like the best place? And we're still dealing with this crap.
Yeah. You know what? Riots in the street are actually the best thing we could think of to do. It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Well, let's get into the show. Here's your first question. We're going to play for a joke. So if you get it wrong, you'll share a joke. If you get it right, I will share one. What is the Centennial Light best known for? Is it A, the longest burning light bulb still in operation, burning since 1901? B, it's the light bulb at a research station in Antarctica that takes 3 months and $50,000 to change? Or C, it's the only example of a light bulb that runs on nuclear fusion?
All of these sound amazing to me, but I happen to know this one. It is A. There is a light bulb hanging somewhere that they're afraid to turn off because it's been going for over 100 years.
That is correct. It is A, the Centennial Light bulb. It's been illuminated almost continuously since 1901. Holds the Guinness World Record for the longest lasting light bulb. It hangs in a fire station, California. They have turned it off several times, but it's got its own power source now, so it's independent of like the rest of the whatever grid that the fire station itself is on, it's protected, because
Right.
now it's
It'll be
become
up.
this thing.
Yeah, it's and you know what? It's I'm sure the Edison company, which sold him that light bulb, is mad that it hasn't burned out yet.
It's funny. A lot of this episode is about that, about the idea of planned obsolescence. This was made in Shelby, Ohio, which is just about an hour and a half north of here, and the Shelby Electric Company, long gone, hasn't been a company for many, many years.
Well, yeah, because they kept making light bulbs that never burned out. You didn't need to buy any new ones.
That's right. But the argument against that this is an example of planned obsolescence is that one of the reasons that it hasn't burned out is because it's just a really bad light bulb. It's super, super dim. It's made with a really thick element. You would never be able to like read with this light, and and so and the fact that it never gets turned on and off, which is what makes light bulbs burn out, So but there definitely was a conspiracy in the 20s to like 100 years ago to make light bulbs last 1,000 hours or less.
That's it. Don't make a better light bulb. Just leave it at 1,000 hours. Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like when people say capitalism is the best system, it is for certain things. But once there's enough an oligopoly to make a collusion, it's bad for everybody, and we just need to recognize that.
Yeah, and so the other thing is that like we need light bulbs now to be brighter and cheaper to be made, and to do that you just can't make, you have to sacrifice one of those things. But that the craziest thing about that thing in the 1920s, the planned obsolescence thing, it was done by a group called the Phoebus Cartel, which sounds like the name of an old Star Trek episode, like the Phoebus Cartel. But it's a real thing. And mostly they were going for standardization because light bulbs were all different and different types of lights, and you couldn't build anything because you didn't know what kind of lights you were going to be putting up, in the thing. So, anywho, so I owe you a joke. Give me a page number between 1 and 600.
I'll go with 591.
All right. 591 is going to be about Wall Street. The other day, they found a Wall Street broker with his pretty filing clerk in Rio. He claimed he didn't know where she'd filed him. I mean, maybe I read that wrong.
Your sigh was the best part of that. I have no idea what that joke was.
I don't get the joke.
You know what it was? The Phoebus Group also standardized jokes in the 1920s. And that's as funny as they could be.
Some people do okay on Wall Street. I know a man who borrowed $50,000. He invested it and lost every penny. He climbed on a high ledge and jumped off. Luckily, he landed on the guy who'd lent him the money.
I like it.
Yeah. Now, there was, I believe, a section. I looked it up right before I came on. A section on obsolescence. So, which is a weird category for a book section for joke books. But here you go. The company engineers worked for months on the computers trying to work out a design that would make the new product obsolete in a year. They had to stop. The computer became obsolete. They were working on the computer. These are bad. A man rushed into an appliance store. Angrily, he said to the salesman, "You sold me a refrigerator last week. It was guaranteed for life, but now it doesn't work." The salesman said, "Well, when you bought it, you didn't look too good." That's a decent one. That one's...
Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm not worried about my job as a comedian right now.
We're doing all right.
Whoever wrote that book, I'm doing better than them.
I would honestly go to an open mic if people were just doing jokes like that the whole time. Like old joke book jokes. I would love that.
Open mics are dangerous, crazy places, and anything that can make them a little bit more wholesome is good by me.
Yeah. It reminds me of the old, the Norm Macdonald roast jokes that he did. It just hit really well. If they're delivered right and everyone knows that you're doing old timey jokes, it works. All right.
Yep.
Well, for the second question, Jay, we're going to play for a music recommendation. So if you get it right, I'll give you a music recommendation. If you get it wrong, you'll give me one. Question 2, which gas was commonly used in early street lighting before electric bulbs became widespread? Was it A, coal gas, B, propane, or C, was it wax candles?
Huh. Well, I mean, I guess some places it would be candles, but I'm going to go with B, propane.
The answer A, coal gas.
What?
Before electric lighting, coal gas was widely used to power street lamps and indoor lighting, especially in cities. These are the 1800s, 19th century. Coal gas, which I didn't even know was a thing. So,
You know what I heard is bad at Christmas time? Nat King Cole gas. Hey, maybe I can write for that joke book after all.
That's right. Well, you got it wrong. So give me a good music recommendation.
All right, I'll give you an album that I recently played for my daughter, the original self-titled Ben Folds 5
Oh,
CD from 1993, I think it is, 94. The
oh,
Ben Folds, with Rock in the Suburbs and all that, and Brick was their big hit, Ben Folds 5, off their second album, Whatever and Ever, Amen. But their first album, Ben Folds 5, the eponymously named album, is one of the more fantastic song cycles you'll get, especially if you like non-traditional setups for music. It's just a bass, drums, and the big old grand piano, and it is rocking. So check that out if you can.
yeah. I'm looking at it right now. 97 was the big famous, like that's what really made him popular.
Yeah.
But some of these other ones I do recognize from my old Napster / LimeWire days. Philosophy is a great song.
Philosophy's a great song. Underground was the song that I thought was great. I actually saw them. You want to know what a loser I was? I was 19 and they came to play at a bar in Philadelphia, and I didn't have a fake ID. So my dad took me to the bar,
That's
and he sat
cool.
in the back of the bar and smoked cigarettes. And I was there with like 100 people watching Ben Folds 5. And he was playing so hard, he broke a string and threw it out into the crowd. It was awesome.
That's
It
cool.
was awesome. One
I
of the
mean,
few
I
experiences that
don't think
I,
that that's a sad story at all. What is sad is when I go to concerts now and I'm the oldest guy at the place.
oh, that's
That's
rough. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, it makes me feel like, oh, I'm into cool music because I'm the oldest guy here. But then, like, also, I'm tired. I'm okay with no encore. Like, just
Oh,
play
God.
those
Yeah.
songs sooner, and then I can go home sooner because I get
There's
tired. My back
nothing
hurts.
there's nothing better than something ending early.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter what it is.
yeah.
I just want it to end early.
Even my
It could
show, I
be,
get so excited when it's like a 6 p.m. showtime. I'm like, I'm
oh
gonna
my
be in
God,
bed by 9.
it's the best. Not this past year, but the 24 going into 25, I did an 8 p.m. New Year's show. And it was honestly, I thought maybe I sold my soul to the devil because it was the greatest thing.
Yeah, the only thing that sucks about that is like if you're out away from home, you have to drive home on the worst day to drive in the history of driving. Like so many idiots out on New Year's Eve. I don't even go out. I won't leave home.
No, it's the money's too good for a comedian, so I have to go do it. But it was
Mm,
only an hour away. It was done by 9, and I was home by 10. It
that's
was
great.
just watch this French kiss. Okay.
Yes, love it, love it. Question 3, we're gonna play for a sticker. It is 3 inches. It is square. It is sticky. It is right here. If you get this right, what unit is used to measure luminous flux, or otherwise known as the total amount of visible light emitted? Okay, is it A, lux, Lux, B, lumens, Lumens, or C, watts?
So it's interesting. Like I've seen both lux and lumens being used to talk about the amount of light, but when you look on the back of a light bulb, you always see it in lumens. And by the way, just before we get this answer, if you have more than the recommended amount of lumens on your headlights, you should be drawn and quartered. You should be taken out. And just the worst human beings are driving around with LED lights that could double for as Batman signals. Just insane. But I'm going to say lumens.
The answer is lumens. Lumens.
Yay!
Basically, they measure how much visible light a source produces, which is different from watts, which is a measure of energy consumption. Now, lux is interesting because lux is illuminance. It's equal to 1 lumen per square meter. So I would have
Okay.
accepted lux. I guess that works. Another one is candela. People use candelas as
Right.
light. Not interchangeably with lumens. I believe it's a different measurement, but I've seen that But yeah, lumens is the one. So you get a sticker to go on the front cover of the book that you will win if you get question 4 correct.
Oh my God, I gotta get this right.
Which material replaced carbon as the standard filament in incandescent bulbs during the early 20th century? So
I already know this. You don't even need to tell me.
I want to hear it. What is it?
Tungsten.
You're right. It's tungsten. I don't even have to give you the options. Tungsten.
I don't need options, Michael Kent.
Yeah.
I am an aficionado of lighting sources.
I love this. Now, is your house all LED now?
It is. It's just the easiest way to do it. I don't think when I see they're warmer, they are warmer. But like if you just look at the difference in efficiency between an LED light and a standard light, like when you realize that basically a standard light is just pushing electrons through tungsten till it heats up and glows bright red versus like just emitting light that's like cool light from an LED, it really does feel like what it is, a 19th century technology. And I don't want to have 19th century technology in my house.
So I'm all LEDs through the whole house, except for some reason that bulb in my basement is still one of those the spiral fluorescence.
The CFC lights.
CFC, yeah, the kind that like when they go out, you have to, I don't know, do some sort of special ritual to you can't just throw it in the trash.
Yeah, that's another thing I don't like. I don't like anything that when something is done, I have to do like something or I die or other people die. It's like, why am I allowed to own this thing then? Like,
yeah.
You shouldn't give it to me.
This is what I use for my studio lighting. It's actually halogen. I use halogen for the studio lightings, JDD bulbs. But a lot of my house has the smart lighting now. So I can just be like, Alexa, make the lighting in here 50%. And, And
it's one of those stupid things that like has become a political war where like people are like, oh, don't take my good old fashioned light bulbs away. It's like, yeah, but you also can't get like a Stanley Steamer car anymore. So like, relax. Like things have moved on into a better position. We don't have to light tungsten on fire to get light anymore. We have better systems now. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And part of that is like when the first LED lighting came out, it looked like LED lighting and nobody wanted it because it was bright blue and it looked stupid. And now you can get the soft white, the correct color temperature that matches whatever a standard incandescent bulb would have been. So
right, and if you look at the difference, especially with the way power prices have gone up, you look, it goes, hey, this 60-watt bulb is going to cost you like $600 a year to run versus this equivalent LED bulb that'll cost you $0.25. Which one do you want? Go for the cheap one, you dum-dums. Come on, what's wrong with it?
Yeah. Well, you've done very well. You're 3 for 4 of these, and if you get the right one, the fifth one, it's as if you got them all right. Now,
oh my good.
The problem with that is if you get it wrong, never invited back on the podcast. Which at this point, this podcast is a large part of your career.
It is. I do mostly what I do. I get most of my tickets sold through this podcast.
I would say have you been on the show 20 times?
Probably at
least,
point.
Right? Yeah.
I'm an old hand at this show.
I love it.
In fact, I'm surprised that your sponsors and the people that put this on have not asked you not to have me back yet.
Well, I think it's your good looks. I think that's what it is. It's the low camera angle and the good looks that they keep coming back for, Jay. And also I think that they're impressed that you're able to join us from cruise ship Wi-Fi all the time and with very little problem.
Yeah, it's you have to cast a spell before it'll happen, but it does go out and do it.
That spell known as $4.99 a day on Norwegian Cruise Lines. Here's your question.
All right, let's do it.
What is something in your life that you've kept way longer than you probably needed to, and why?
So I am, I was just talking about this the other day. I am not a sentimental person. I don't care about items. Because somebody was asking me, I was on a radio show, and they were like, what autographs do you have? And I was like, none. Why do you have autographs? You're a grown man. Like, what do you do? What do you do with your autographs? You take them out, you look at them? Like, that's it? That's all you can do. Hey, look at this thing that I have in a drawer. I said, best case scenario with all that stuff is that you collect it your whole life. And the best you can hope for is that your kids look at it for a little bit before they throw it away. That's it. Best case. But I will tell you, there is one thing, because I am a middle-aged white man, that I cannot stop myself from keeping. And that is in my big drawer right here. This stuff. Wires. Just a clump of wires that don't go to anything. In my head, I can't throw them away, because what if you need a USB-A to lightning cable? What if you need that, Michael Kent?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
might. You might come from 2011 and I can help you.
I've got USB to like that old 30-pin iPad connector somewhere around here.
Yeah, because you never know.
And these are fun too. I don't know if you know, if you recognize this.
Oh yeah,
this is the Motorola Rocker phone, and it's not a flip phone or anything. This phone I freaking loved. This phone was awesome because it came with iTunes on it. Yep. Motorola had a deal with Apple, and this phone had iTunes on it, and you could play. For those of you listening, those young people, iTunes is what Apple Music used to be called.
Right.
Here's another one. This.
Oh yeah.
Was
Nokia
the
flip phone?
No, this was the old
the Razr.
The Motorola Razr. This was the like Razr, at the time, you know, they called it the Razr because it was supposed to be like razor thin, and it still feels very small in my hand. You have the satisfaction of closing the flip phone when you hang up on a call. I have these because I just can't get rid of them, because I think that I like the design of them. They're superior to the way that the iPhone looks. They just are. The buttons are cooler.
There's a YouTuber named Mr. Mobile who has like a whole thing when phones were fun.
Yeah.
And there was a time, and I guess this is true of every technology. Like if you look at like airplanes from the 1910s, where they're like, what if we put like 60 levels of biplane wings on this thing and ran it, and it just collapses? Like before they standardize the technology, everybody's trying to figure out what the standard's going to be. And we are like far along in the standardization process. And it's just like, you know, an obelisk of black is going to be what everybody carries. I do miss those times when it was cool to look at.
Yeah. I mean, everything looks the same now. All the phones look the same. All the iPads, all the tablets look the same. All the laptops look the same. You don't have those. Remember, like when Apple first came out with the clamshell book?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It was just so cool because it was so different, because they could. And now it's like those chances aren't worth it for any one company to go out on a limb and make some crazy design. I will say, like, you know, the Cybertruck's doing it to whatever success or failure that's happening. But
it's when the founder dies or retires, the one singular vision guy that goes, I want it to look like this. And everybody goes, you're insane.
Right.
And they go, well, yeah, but I'm in charge, so it's going to look like this. That's why you get things like the Cybertruck still. Yeah. But when Elon Musk is finally, you know, shot into space or whatever they're going to do with him, and the committee comes along, the committee will make it look like everything else, because committee thinking is always bland. So yeah, it's the problem is, you know, and I know somebody who works at Apple University. Do you know what this is, Apple University? So Steve Jobs said, when I was gone, when I was in my wilderness years, Apple lost its way. So I never want that to happen again. So he has a university inside of Apple for the employees to go to be, I mean, trained is one word, indoctrinated would be a less ideal word, but basically a university inside of Apple to train them in the Apple way of thinking, so that his vision does not die when he dies. So, you know, that's part of, I think, the reason why Apple has been able to stay on top for as long as they have. But you do miss the presence of like Steve Jobs just throwing a phone at some engineer's head and going, make it purple. It's like, why? Because I want it to be purple. Like, we miss that. We don't have that anymore.
We don't, because all the people who designed these, you know, light bulbs that could last 125 years are dead. So
yeah, murdered.
All right, man. That's all. You've done wonderful. You got the last one right, which means that you are going to come back on the podcast as long as you are willing and able.
You know what? As long as you're going to have me on, because you know why, Mike? Because number one, we're friends, but number two, I'm a narcissist that likes to hear my own voice. So those two things combined together, and I'm
love it.
always here for you, my friend.
I love it. Where can people find what you're doing these days?
Go to my Instagram. Hello, Jay Black on Instagram. I'm an old man trying to stay relevant. Please come to it.
Stop reading the
follow
comments, Jay. That's the problem. You got to stop reading the comments.
I'm trying to stay relevant. I want to know
all
what
those
you're
people
saying.
want is for you to complain about them on a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. You heard it, jerkface 17932. I got you. I made fun of you.
Oh, man. Have a great week, brother. It's good to see you.
You too. Good to see you as well.
That's all for this week. Thank you so much to my friend Jay Black for being my guest, and thanks to you for listening. Here's a kid whose great-great-grandparents weren't even born in 1901.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it. See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the gold-level Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help make this show possible. Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Richard Duvall, and the show's official Emperor Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge. All audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.